Welcome to Overtime Days, where we talk about relevant construction topics in the industry today. I've got our new CEO, Matt Ellis, with us. Thank you, Matt, for being here.
Glad to be here.
So this is going to be the first podcast of 2026. So we thought it was fitting for us to talk about the industry trends for 2026 and what that means, what smart firms should be watching now. Obviously, this is a article that we put online. You can go to our website, go to the ACE Toolbox and search this if you want to read more into this. But we're going to go through this quickly today, talk about some stuff. 26, 25 was a very interesting year for the construction industry, and it's shaping up like 2026 is going to be more of the same, just maybe in a couple of different areas. First trend, construction growth with real pressure beneath the surface. So Matt, give us a little bit more info on that.
Well, I think from looking through a lot of what the economists, what HEC is saying, ABC, just talking to clients, we're seeing that we expect that overall construction growth is going to be up this year. It may not be in the double-digit percentages, at least overall, but in individual sectors it could be. So we should still see pretty decent overall demand. A lot of dollars have been allocated for Department of Defense and funding for the federal government, things like that. It's pretty regimented, though. You have some sectors that are through the roof, others that aren't so high. Obviously, data centers, things of that nature, and the infrastructure that goes along with it are going to be probably measured in double digits, whereas retail, hospitality may be a little on the lower side. But as an overall, we should still see pretty strong demand on growth there. Labor shortages and cost pressures have not gone away. New there. I don't expect that we're going to see them go away. As you know, from our staffing side, we're continuing to see that piece growing and growing and growing. So I think that one's real. That one's not going anywhere. And then quality over quantity. You're seeing more impactful type projects, larger. You look at, again, I kind of go back to the data centers. You look at data centers measured in billions and billions and billions and trillions of dollars. So that piece of the whole puzzle, and if it's $1 trillion in spending, it's not as many projects. So it's not going to be 1 million projects. It might be 250,000 projects or whatever. So you're seeing a little bit more in terms of the quality and in terms of dollar value of a project instead of the quantity of the projects.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2, the rise of offsite modular and digital first construction. This is an interesting one.
It is. It really is interesting. We have a couple of partners that have experimented and done a lot of things with the modular construction. That seems to really be gaining footing every year, where a significant portion, if not all of the facility, is built off-site and then brought in. Of course, this all kind of similar to model and started with, tilt-up construction. And that became a big thing. You're starting to see more smaller restaurants, the Chick-fil-A's and things like that are building stuff. I think Starbucks did one. Yeah, Starbucks did one as well, where they will assemble it off-site and bring it in. And it kind of goes in with 3D construction as well, where they're 3D printing buildings or components of buildings. So I think every year we're going to start to see a little bit more of that. And then, of course, the buzzword of everything is right now. And we're starting to see it. There are so many functionalities of it, whether it's using drones to do surveys or progress reports. There's technology on iPads for the Power BI and some of these big programs do that are measuring piles and square feet of this and lineal feet of this. And it's pretty interesting and pretty impactful for what they've got going on. But I don't think that's going anywhere. That's only going to continue to get more and more prominent and stuff that we have to get used to, which, if we know anything about the construction industry, they're slow to adapt technology. But once it's here, it'll take off for sure.
It seems like AI has been one of the faster ones that the construction industry has actually grabbed onto. And I think at least what we saw at the tail end of 25, moving into 2026 now, that if you're not using AI on your projects, you're going to get left behind.
For sure.
That's really where we're at this point.
For sure. What we're experiencing right now with AI is just the cusp of it. And you and I have messed around with it. I know everybody's kind of messing around with it right now, but the ability to take data, put it into AI and have it spit out a result is pretty remarkable. And I think it's only going to continue to change the construction industry for the good, sure, for quality and safety, schedule, budget, all of those things.
And last but not least, regulatory risk and business environment complexity meets scrutiny.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. Quite the interesting political environment that we're in right now. As of as of us doing this podcast today, the Supreme Court has struck down the tariffs that President Trump put in place. He came back out, imposed a new rule where he did 15%. I think he started at 10% and bumped it up to 15. That's having some ripple effects amongst not just the construction industry, but all the way down the line, because that impacts all the materials that we need anyway. That's going to impact steel and raw materials that are needed to make drywall or concrete or whatever it might be. So that's going to continue to be a bit of an issue with some of the uncertainty there. Hopefully that starts to level out a little bit and we get some consistency in pricing for materials. The economic uncertainty piece is still TBD. A lot of really great growth signs and then some not so great signs as well. I think the other one, when we're talking about regulatory, the big elephant in the room one is going to be CMMC.
Of course.
That's coming later this year, and it's been a long time coming. We've been talking about it for feels like 20 years. We're going to start to see it in contracts this year, maybe in some of the higher profile, more impactful to a national security type projects. But I expect that late this year and beginning as soon as next year, we'll start to see some of those CMMC requirements written in, which can also create a little bit of uncertainty and how that flows down the line to your suppliers and your subcontractors. But that would be the third piece of the puzzle in terms of what we expect to see this year.
So I think overall, looking from 25 to 26, it seems like 2026 is a turning point for a lot of reasons, whether it be AI, which we talked about. I'm sure we'll probably do more podcasts on at some point or another. I'm sure there'll be some gadget that they come out with for construction at some point that's going to change the game, so to speak. Obviously, AI, getting on board with that. The economic uncertainty that you just talked about isn't going to go away, I don't think, anytime soon. I think 25, the tariffs was a bit of a shock to some people. I think they weren't expecting that. Now we're in it, so we know about it, and now it's changing once again. So trying to figure all that out. And then obviously the growth in general. We talked about the data centers, where some industries are just booming and others are seemingly going away. It all seems like people that can get it figured out in 2026 may be setting themselves up for a huge future moving forward.
Absolutely. And I think you're always trying to look at the trends. When we see the amount of billions and billions and billions, I think the number of backlog data center construction was an egregious percentage of contractors' backlog. I want to say 30 or 40%. It was something insane. That'll happen, but something else is going to come along and take over what that is, or one of the existing industries is going to take off. And just always being on the cusp and being prepared for what that might be is kind of our job. Our job and somebody in a general contractor firm as well, to see that and make sure that that's something they can go after and get, or that they can help with. But yeah, I agree. That's how you equip yourself to have a step forward in the next wave of stuff. So
sure. Well, Matt, I appreciate the time, man.
Absolutely.
And everybody watching, as always, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything at all, reach out to us, aceconsulting.net. You can fill out a form there, or if you want to call us, we'd be more than happy to help you guys out with anything that you need. And as always, work with experts, work with ACE.